Hello humans, I am the Black Cat and welcome to Weird Wednesday. Today we look at the Travis Walton abduction. In November 1975, Travis Walton was a member of a logging crew in Snowflake, Arizona. On the 5th of November, the crew had finished work and were heading back into town when they spotted a bright light in the woods. They thought at first it may have been a forest fire, so they went to get a better look. As they got closer, they saw a craft hovering in mid-air. Travis described it as reflecting light as well as giving off light. Being curious and a little cocky, Travis decided to get out of the car and take a closer look. He stood directly under the UFO. His workmates yelled at him to get back in the car, but he didn't listen. The craft started to move and Travis started to back away, but he didn't move quick enough and felt a shock hit him and threw him back, and he hit the ground hard enough that it knocked him out. His workmates panicked, believing he was killed, and took off for town. A little way down the road, Michael Rogers, who was driving the truck, decided that they should go back. Some of the men didn't want to, being afraid of what might happen. They agreed they couldn't just leave when their friend could be lying hurt, so they went back. However, when they did, there was no sign of Travis or the craft. Not sure what to do at that point, they went back into town and told the local police what had happened. A search party was sent out, but they couldn't find Travis. The police started to suspect that the men may have killed Travis and made up this story as a cover. Despite the men insisting it was all true, the police didn't believe them. And why would they? It's far more logical for police to believe that he was murdered than a story involving a UFO. So the men were made to take a lie detector test to prove they weren't lying, and they passed. So 5 days later, on the 10th of November, Travis's brother-in-law, Grant, received a phone call from Travis asking for help. He went to get him and found him on the floor of the phone booth that he called from. When asked what happened to him, Travis tells his incredible story. This is what he said. After being knocked unconscious, he woke feeling in pain and thirsty. He could feel that he was lying on a table in what he assumed was a hospital. He looked around, and once his eyes adjusted to the light, he saw 3 beings looking at him. He said they were small in structure, like children, with small features except for their eyes. He claims their eyes were large and black. They had white skin and large heads. Even though he was hurt, he was able to push one of them away with ease. He got up and in a panic, grabbed a tube off a nearby table as a weapon. The 3 small beings ran out of the room. Left alone, Travis exited the room and found himself in a corridor. He walked down the corridor and found another room. In this room was a single chair in the middle. There was a kind of control panel in front of it. As he approached the chair, the walls of the room got dark and he could see stars all around him. He touched the panel and the stars moved. The sensation started to make Travis feel sick. He figured that he was on the craft that he had seen and thought it was probably not a good idea to touch anything. Suddenly a man came to the door. Travis described him as looking human. He was tall and had long blonde hair. Travis assumed he was there to help him. He began asking the man lots of questions, but the man never spoke. Instead, he led him out of the room and into another. In the next room, Travis realized he was on a much larger craft than he saw. As he was led into a large room, he says he saw several smaller crafts in the room that looked similar to the one he saw. After this, he was led into another room where there were more human-looking beings, another male and 1 female. They were all tall, with pale skin and blonde hair. They took him to another table and tried to put what he believes was some kind of oxygen mask on him. He tried to fight them off, but soon lost consciousness again. The next thing he knew, he woke up on the ground outside of his town. He looked up and saw a light disappearing above him. He says he wasn't sure if it was a light turning off or a door closing, but he could see the craft in the air. Suddenly it shot upwards and disappeared. He got himself up and walked into town to the closest phone booth he could find. So obviously once Travis returned alive and well, the other men were no longer suspected of his murder. even years after they underwent a lie detector test again and again, they all passed. Even Travis was given a lie detector test about his experience, and he also passed. Travis has spoken about his experience many times over the years, and his story is always the same. He's also been working with an artist to recreate the things that he saw, with some of those paintings I've used in this video. There was also a movie made about the story called Fire in the Sky, but Travis says that what they showed on the ship was completely different to what he had experienced, but movies have to dramatize. So what are the theories? Well, the case of Travis's disappearance and the search and the subsequent investigation are all well documented. He really did disappear for 5 days, his workmates really were suspected of murder, and he really did reappear after 5 days. There's no argument about those events. But what people are unsure about is what Travis says happened to him. Let's say, for argument's sake, that it was all an elaborate hoax. What would be the point? Why would he voluntarily disappear for 5 days? Where did he go in those 5 days? There were search parties out looking for him that found no trace. Travis himself had no interest in aliens before this happened, but he was able to describe what others have called tall whites, a race of aliens that appear human and are very tall with pale skin and blonde hair. How could he come up with a story like that? Personally, I believe his story. I think he was accidentally injured by the craft attempting to take off, and the aliens took him in order to heal him. Perhaps he wasn't meant to wake up when he did. Perhaps the tall whites thought that their appearance would be better than the so-called greys. When he first saw the tall white male, he didn't react the same way he did when he saw the other smaller ones. So, whatever you believe, it all sounds fascinating, and personally, I would love to know more. But that brings us to the end of this mystery. I hope you enjoyed it. Let me know your thoughts, and I'll catch you next time. Bye!